By now, The Mummy 2017 is its own cautionary tale. Universal spent $125 million. And actually, it was probably more like 250 after the ad campaign, give or take, trying to create their own expanded universe of classic monster movies. And barely made twice as much back at the box office, ensuring all their efforts would be branded a failure. But it's okay, since after The Mummy flopped, everyone rushed to point the finger at Tom Cruise, ensuring all of those who were actually responsible could fail upwards into better, higher-paying future jobs. I expect them to try all of this again in give or take 3 years, since that's exactly what happened the last time, with Dracula Untold. Much as we internet-dwelling film nerds like to make it a punchline, Universal's repeated attempts to start up their own expanded universe train do actually make some sense. They are, arguably, the Richard Trevithick of all this shit. Larry Talbot did die at the end of The Wolfman, after all, but that didn't stop him from tripping over his own dick into Dracula's castle, or Frankenstein's castle, or some other dipshit mad scientist's castle for 4 more movies. The internet used to overflow with dissertation-level essays trying to explain the non-existent continuity between those flicks. The ancestors of all those modern "how this bit of the Marvel Universe fits into the rest in spite of all evidence to the contrary" essays. So let's say you've chosen, or been chosen, to trap yourself inside the Universal Studios machine. You consider yourself heir to this legacy that defined the American horror movie as a genre, since it's either that or being heir to the legacy of Comcast cable. Then, after 5 years of watching those scrubs over at Disney steal your thunder with movies that you hold in complete contempt, a green-eyed monster whose name isn't Hulk starts to take hold of your mind. And you start to wonder, why not us? After all, we did it first, with less. Sure, why not? Especially if you've already got a project that you put on the shelf because you thought it would be too expensive. Back then it was called Dracula Year Zero, and it was supposed to be directed by Alex Dark City the Crow Proyas and star Sam Terminator No Salvation No Forgiveness Worthington. But who needs talented and successful people to start their film franchise, am I right? Why not hire a first-time director with no clout or producer-level protection, and cast the guy everyone mistakes for Orlando Bloom in the Pirates movies? Even when I'm watching the Hobbit trilogy and Orlando Bloom is right over there, I still have to do a double take every time Bard comes on screen, like... By then, it was called Dracula Untold. And Jesus gods, pour one out for director Gary Shore, please. Here's a guy, right, plucked from the relative obscurity of Dublin, where his short films won awards, and his commercials almost won awards at Cannes. Yeah, Cannes has its own version of the Clio Awards. I was as surprised as you. I'm like, okay. So Universal calls him up to the majors, and the dude probably thinks he's won the fucking lottery. He starts making all these plans, hoping that his rising tide will lift everyone else's boats, and then, like the Predator said, shit happens. And the most high-profile thing he's done since has been a commercial for the online strategy game Game of War, Fire Age. A commercial that only got its 5 minutes of fame because it starred Kate Upton as the bustiest Athena since the one in Delacroix's Liberty Leading the People. So what the fuck happened? Well, let's say you want to make a Dracula movie in a post-Twilight world. Fine. You could tell the tragic story of a well-meaning prince trying to save his people from the evil empire next door by unleashing an even greater evil upon them. Which, to be fair, they kind of tried to do. But make no mistake, as with The Mummy 2017, this first attempt at a first entry in the dark universe is a superhero origin story in disguise. So you want to make Dracula a superhero. Fine. But you're not going to be able to do that without some serious compromises. Especially if you want this to be a PG-13 90-minute fantasy action movie. All the signs are here. Action that's filmed too close and cut too quick. Supporting characters who come and go. Live and die and rise again without us even learning their names. Relationships that are told to us rather than shown. An opening voiceover in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy tradition, existing only to set up a closing voiceover and to tell us some damned lies. And a startling lack of blood, even by Twilight standards. Makes me think there's an R-rated cut of this somewhere, with more severed limbs and a hell of a lot more impaling. Though I can't find any actual evidence to back this up. Christ, we don't even have an unrated DVD, and even the 2010 Wolfman remake rated one of those. What the hell, Universal? Seriously. About those damned lies, though. The opening voiceover, delivered by Dracula's totally made up for this movie's son, Ingarus, like Angulus, puts Vlad Dracul's prowess in battle and his legendary appetite for slaughter down to his being kidnapped by the Ottoman Empire and raised as a child soldier. And that, right there, is a great big pile of ahistorical bullshit right after the opening credits. You almost said right off the bat, didn't you? Yes, but I stopped myself. Unlike some people, I have self-control. Neither awful enough to suck nor sharp enough to bite. Fuck you, Rotten Tomatoes. Nobody likes you. In our world, Vlad III, son of the dragon, was, along with his brother Radu, actually held hostage by the Ottoman Empire during the 1440s, the better to secure his dad's continued cooperation. He was certainly not a child soldier who repented his former war crimes when he returned home. Quite the opposite, in fact. We don't know much about his life, most of what we know coming from his various political enemies. But what we do know paints a picture of his early life that's a lot more like Theon Greyjoy, and a lot less like Raiden from Metal Gear Solid. If you'd like to know more, check out my man Chad Denton's series, Hollywood Hates History. Episode 3 is all about Vlad, through the lens of a 1970s Romanian biopic that tries to cast him as a national hero. Which, shit, if you could cast Dracula as the founder of your nation, you'd probably do it too. But then again, who cares about history? Certainly not America in 2018. Or 2014, for that matter. So Vlad here is a beloved prince who rules over an idyllic-looking kingdom, with the respect, seemingly born out of sincere love, rather than impalement-induced fear, of his fellow nobles. An incredibly hot wife, the real Vlad had at least 2, and one tow-headed son. The real Vlad had at least 3. I do like the scattered references to how Dracula can be translated as either son of the dragon or son of the devil. Vlad was a son of the dragon because his father joined the Order of the Dragon, a group of knights founded by the King of Hungary in 1408, specifically to check the Ottoman Empire's western expansion. He probably didn't become a son of the devil until the modern Romanian language solidified. But here, he owns the name once climactic circumstances force him to chow down on his wife, go full vampire, and save his son from the clutches of Sultan Mehmed II. It's almost impossible to avoid reading 2014's sociopolitical anxieties in this depiction of 1470 whatever. At least the Ottomans aren't outright monstrous, or as relentlessly queer-coded as, say, 300's Persians. But they are just as callously cruel in the face of their poor, humble, nuclear family-having Western neighbors. So when Mehmet II demands 1,000 child conscripts to beef up the ranks of his army, including Vlad's narrator's son, our hero is forced to climb the haunted landmark of Broken Tooth Mountain and strike a deal with the vampire inside. And god fucking damn it, this movie got Charles Dance, put him in full Nosferatu makeup, used him for all of 5 minutes, and then decided to save him for the sequel. This is a criminal mismanagement of an otherwise perfect casting choice. Right up there, or down there, rather, with the Jim and the Holograms movie casting Kesha as Pizzazz, and then relegating her, and the rest of the Misfits, no, not those Misfits, to an after-the-credits teaser. Regardless, Tywin Vampister offers the Lord Impaler, and I do love how that's his nickname. And I love the contempt Charles Dance can put into just 2 words. That's acting. A shattered skull full of blood, giving Vlad the full slate of vampire powers for 3 nights. If he resists the urge to feed until the dawning of day 4, he'll revert back to normal human, no problem. But if he feasts on human blood, not only will he become the Dracula we put this movie on to see, he'll release Clemens from Broken Tooth Mountain. But don't get too excited. Even the worst Twilight movie, New Moon, don't at me, has more and better staged vampire-on-vampire combat. I want to sterilize my mouth after saying that, but we must always give credit where it's due. As for vampire-on-human combat, well, I'll admit, I'm spoiled by all the actual horror movies I've watched, many of which starred a Dracula. There's this one scene where Vlad repels a Turkish attack on his castle, mowing down a whole 1,000-man army all by himself, and it should be the coolest thing ever, but it's not really. Our director does come up with one genuinely good idea here, having half the battle play out in the reflective surface of a scimitar Vlad intermittently uses throughout. But it's like finding $20 in your pocket while you're doing the laundry. A minor reward for a mundane chore that was already yours in the first place. You just forgot you had it. Luke Evans is... what can you say about him, really? It reminds me a bit of Taylor Kitsch. Never the real problem in whatever he's in. Dude just has shit luck picking roles. I feel bad comparing him to other Draculas because he gets so little Dracula shit to do. He's much more like Louis from Interview with a Vampire. Newly born into the night and adjusting to his unlife. Except Interview was good because it took its time to explore what that adjustment looks like. And it looked like stepping into a crazy, surrealist nightmare world. Forcing you to learn a whole new set of instincts because all of your old ones are human. And you're not human anymore, are you? All of the positive reviews of this film, and there are a few, but they all contain some line that translates from critic to English as, well, at least it's short. None of my colleagues seem to realize that this is precisely the problem. Vlad gets 3 nights to try vampirism before he buys it, giving the back half of this movie a nice tight 3-act structure. On night 1, he kills 1,000 men and puts them all on spikes for Mehmet to see. Classic Vlad, the scamp. On night 2, he moves all of his people up to a local abbey at the head of Borgo Pass, of course, losing some friends along the way. On night 3, Mehmet's 10,000-man army shows up, pretty much out of the blue. Because yeah, sure, you can move 10,000 men that fast. In the 1470s. Yeah, totally. So this movie's climax can at least pretend to look a little like the Battle of Helm's Deep. But Vlad ultimately fails. His son gets kidnapped, and his wife lies dying in his arms, begging him to bite her and use his vampire powers to save their son. Since Vlad's wife... I forgot her name again. Hold on. Marina. Since Marina has nothing else to do, she gets to sacrifice herself for the sake of her husband's story. Oh, joy. The better to get reincarnated as a Mina in the present-day set epilogue/teaser for a sequel we'll never see. And it just occurred to me, they named her Marina because it kinda, sorta sounds like an old-timey version of Mina, just to make sure we'd remember it. But since she's such a nothing character, the wifiest protagonist's wife I've seen in a long-ass time, I still had to look up her name just now. And after I finish this, I'm probably going to go right back to calling her Vlad's wife, and I'm not going to feel a shred of guilt about it. There was this one scene, a continuation of the Vlad's wife discovers he's coming down with vampirism scene, where Marina goes out and gets him some goat blood to quench his thirst during the day. But some damn fool somewhere decided to cut that for some stupid reason. Oh yeah, no big deal. It's only the scene where our hero's significant other overcomes an entire lifetime worth of received wisdom and accepts him for who and what he is. Who on earth would want to see something like that? Another example. There's this monk, see? Early on, he delivers the vampire exposition, and then he disappears until Act 3, when everybody gets to the Abbey. There, he starts to notice how far Prince Vlad is going to avoid direct sunlight, and stirs up a genuine, bona fide, torch-wielding mob to try and kill Vlad before Vlad can fulfill his destiny. What does Vlad do? He yells at the mob for a bit, about how much he's sacrificed for them, about how little they appreciate him. Oh, poor baby. Poor movie, trying to make me feel bad for Dracula. But really, who the hell wants to feel bad for Dracula? Most people want to be Dracula, which is part of why I'm doing this in the first place. It fits right in with my "we all want to be monsters now" thesis, which the Lord Impaler himself actually articulates better than I ever have. Because men do not fear swords. They fear monsters. Any old dumbass can pick up a sword, but monsters have power and agency. The two rarest and most special weapons on Earth's loot table. Point is, this monk here is the proto-Van Helsing. But since he barely appears in the film, I can't even remember his name. It doesn't actually matter. We know Dracula's gonna survive because he's fucking Dracula. And we know his son's going to survive because some damn fool decided to make him the introductory narrator. Yet I'm supposed to wonder, will Dracula rescue his son from the death trap Mimets set up for him? Leaving this film's actual conclusion feeling hollow and dull. I'm left with nothing to do except admire the death trap. A tent full of all the silver coins Vlad gave the Sultan as tribute back in Act 1. Thousands of tiny portraits of the Lord Impaler's former life now rendered toxic to him. It's this movie's one last original and creative thought. Though I gotta admit, getting staked through the heart by the vampire you were trying to stake is a better way to go out than how Sultan Mehmet II actually went out. Probably poisoned by probably his own son. It's right up there with Wonder Woman shanking Eric Ludendorff years before he could die alone from liver cancer in some rich person's hospice. But this is another one of those movies where the deleted scenes are much more interesting than any of the actual scenes. Like there's this one, after Vlad's just gotten his vampire powers, and gets led to a village the Ottomans have destroyed by a ghost. And he's like, "You're dead." And then the ghost goes, "Yeah, you are too, buddy." And then Vlad thinks he's found a survivor, but turns out she's actually a witch. Like a no-shit Baba Yaga, Hansel and Gretel witch, complete with her own gingerbread house full of child-sized skeletons in cages. And then she reads his palm and tells him his future, saying he has 7 days of borrowed vampirism instead of 3, hinting at this film's original structure. And when he rejects her reading, she laughs at him while her house walks off into the woods. All of which is awesome, and you wonder, why the fuck isn't this in the film? I don't know, but those 7 days of borrowed vampirism, rather than 3, make me think that it's because Universal screened this film for an audience of random LA area mall goers, got back bad notices, and then panicked. Rather than go back to the drawing board and maybe miss the coveted early October release window, they chopped it down to its bare bones, hastily recorded some additional dialogue to cover that up, and then shipped it out, hoping nobody would notice. After all, according to executive producer logic, 90 minutes of film times however many theaters times however many showings per day equals X amount of profit. Except, of course, when it doesn't. Like, say, when your movie plays like it's on fast forward, even at normal speed. People can and will recognize that, even if only on a subconscious level. We may not all be cynical critics who've watched too many movies, but we are all aware that we're trapped in a system that doesn't really care about movies or moviegoers, and that treats the people who make movies like interchangeable parts. A system that seeks to automate and algorithmically generate everything, secure in the belief that we, the audience, will lap up whatever slop they put in front of us. A system that is always, always hilariously surprised when we don't. When we say, nah fam, fuck all this, I'm gonna go watch a Christopher Lee Dracula movie again. At least those had heart. Yes. That sounds like foreshadowing for something you should have already discussed by now. Congratulations! You've been paying attention. Thanks for watching, everyone. Special thanks to Mr. Hootie Dean, Detective Steve, The After Movie Diner, and Stooge. If you'd like some special thanks, then consider supporting this show on Patreon. Or you could click the like button, and the share button, and the subscribe button, and the little bell that's like a super duper subscribe button. Because YouTube doesn't actually want to send notifications out to people who subscribe to our stuff. Yeah. But whatever. Next time, I suppose it is the 100th anniversary of World War I. And what kind of historian's son would I be if I let that go unremarked upon?